Montana Territory, July 1880. So, Mebbins bolted. I like the entrance. The train hissed its final breath of steam and chugged away, leaving a cloud of dust and the faint thud of boots on the platform. Frances Kessler perched on a weathered crate by the depot, gloved hands folded, a carpetbag at her feet and a crumpled letter tucked in her skirt pocket. Her eyes, wary for 23, scanned the empty platform again. He wasn't there. The letter had promised he would be. She'd memorized it. I'll meet you myself. Look for a tall man in a brown hat by the station wall. You'll know me by my silver-toed boots. Everett Collins, her fiancé. But no brown hat, no silver toes, just a freight clerk, shifting crates, a boy sweeping, and the station agent eyeing her like a lost dog. The sun bore down. Frances shifted, her corset biting her ribs, her mouth dry from no food since last night. She stayed seated. Standing meant admitting she had nowhere to go. Sitting meant someone might still come. She smoothed a letter again, 2 months old. Had Everett changed his mind? Died? Found another? The station agent cleared his throat. Ma'am, you waiting on someone? Yes, sir, my fiancé, she replied, nodding once. He grimaced politely. Train's not due again till tomorrow. She nodded slower. He hesitated, then vanished inside. Frances fixed her gaze on the tracks. She'd wait until dark, if needed. 15 miles west. Wyatt Ellison yanked his gelding's reins, staring at a broken wagon wheel, split clean through after hitting a rut by the creek. He crouched, wiping sweat from his brow. Damn it, Everett, he muttered. His cousin, bedridden with fever in Helena, had begged him to go to the station in his place. She's expecting someone. Go in my stead. Explain. Make sure she's safe. Wyatt hadn't liked it, but he'd agreed. He'd meant to arrive hours ago, but the wheel and a cracked spare had other plans. He cursed again, mounted his horse, and galloped toward the station as the sun sank, shadows stretching long. Frances pulled her shawl tight, though the air stayed warm. The platform was empty, the depot locked. Alone. No one was coming. Her hand pressed her chest. She'd left everything in Kansas City. Her dry goods job, her boarding house room, her sister. Sold her locket for the train ticket. Believed Everett's promises of a homestead, strong fences, 2 milk cows, and a need for someone steady, kind. The silence mocked her faith. She stood, knees trembling, and lifted her carpetbag. A hotel was down the road, but her $2 wouldn't last. Miss Schisler, a low, rough voice, like gravel on wood. She turned. A man dismounted near the platform. Tall, broad, trail dusty, grey hat, plain boots. Not Everett. But his eyes were kind. I'm Wyatt Ellison, Everett's cousin, he said, stepping closer. He took ill. Fever? I came in his place. Sorry I'm late. Wagon broke down. He's not coming, she said, voice flat. Wyatt's jaw tightened. No, Mum. He's in no state to travel. Wanted you to know to be safe. Frances swallowed. So he sent you to explain. And to make sure you're all right? He eyed her bag. Got a place to stay? He nodded, looking away. There's a boarding house in town. I'll cover it. Least I can do. Don't take charity. His eyes met hers. Then call it a debt for your time. She hesitated, then nodded. He led her down the road, horse trailing, as the sky turned violet. They walked in silence until Wyatt said, "You must be brave, coming all this way alone for a man you never met." Francis shrugged. "I thought it'd be different." He nodded quietly. "Me too." The boarding house gave her a room with a slanted ceiling, a narrow bed, a chipped basin, and a stuck window. Dry, private. Wyatt paid for 3 nights, tipped his hat, and left. Francis watched him ride into the dark from her window. His steady, gentle manner, no false promises, lingered in her chest. She sat on the bed, hands in her lap. Maybe tomorrow wouldn't be the end of everything. She closed her eyes, willing sleep. Wyatt didn't sleep. He camped by the broken wagon under a star-filled sky, her eyes haunting him. Not their colour, but the look when she'd said, "So he sent you." He'd seen it before, on soldiers, on starving mothers, on himself. Pride, quiet strength. Everett didn't deserve her. Wyatt pulled his coat tighter against the cold, vowing to see her tomorrow. Morning light spilled gold through the slanted window, catching Frances's hair as she pinned her braid and fixed her last clean collar, creased but white. Downstairs, the dining room smelled of coffee and cornmeal. The innkeeper's wife waved her to a table without fuss. Frances ate carefully, eyes on the tablecloth's lace edge, mind set on not staying idle. Wyatt entered, trail-dusted, shirt damp from the pump. She met his gaze, unsure of what came next, but certain she'd face it standing. A promise kept. He carried his hat in one hand, pausing when he saw her. "Hoped you'd still be here," he said, voice low. Clara folded her napkin. "Got nowhere else to go." He waited for her nod before pulling out the chair across from her, elbows resting on the table, careful not to crowd her. "Check the wagon," he said. "Axle's busted. Need a new one from Red Lodge. Might take a week." She met his eyes. "Why tell me?" He shifted. "Figured I'd ride out of the homestead this afternoon, fetch supplies, maybe set up a spot for you if you don't want to stay in town." Clara watched him closely. "I was promised a place there." "Yes, ma'am," he said. "I aim to make sure you get it." Clara glanced at her napkin, then back up. "I ain't a charity case." "Never said you were," he replied. "But a promise is a promise, even if it's not how you pictured it." She studied him. "You're not like him." Ethan's jaw tightened. "No, I ain't." They left by mid-morning, Ethan leading a second horse from the livery. He adjusted the stirrups for her without a word, handing her the reins with a nod. The trail west stretched quiet and wide, dust rising in soft clouds from the horses' hooves. They rode in silence, the wind carrying pine and river water. Clara didn't ask questions, and Ethan didn't break the quiet. At noon they stopped by a narrow stream. Clara dismounted alone, knelt at the bank, and splashed her face. Ethan hung back, giving her space. "You were in the war," she said suddenly, not turning. "Cavalry, Kansas regiment." She stood, drying her hands on her skirt. "You came back whole?" He looked at her, then down. "Not entirely." They didn't speak of it again. The sun climbed and they rode on. By late afternoon the land shifted. Fewer cottonwoods, more sage. A weathered fence line appeared, then a modest house. 2 rooms, smoke curling from the chimney. Clara dismounted stiffly. Ethan led the horses to the trough, then gestured to the door. "You go in first." She stepped inside. The room smelled of ash and dry wood. A clean stove sat in the corner, a table with one chair, a cot against the wall, and a trunk at its foot. No curtains, but the window let in soft evening light. Clara stood still, then turned back. Ethan hadn't moved. "It's yours if you want it," he said. She stepped outside, closing the door softly. "It's plain, it's solid." She looked toward the hills, wind lifting her hair. "I can work. I can mend clothes, keep hens. I ain't afraid of dirt." "Didn't think you were." She turned to him fully. "Why are you helping me?" He held her gaze. "Saw you standing there, like you'd been broken and patched wrong. Couldn't ride past that." Her eyes narrowed. "What do you want in return?" "Nothing you don't want to give," he said plainly. Clara folded her arms, steadying herself. "I'll need time." "You got it." The wind carried the scent of rain. "I'll sleep in the barn," Ethan added, "till you decide what's next." She nodded. "I'd like coffee if you got any." He gave a faint, tired smile. "I'll start the fire." They walked to the house together, step for step. Neither reached for the door first, but when he opened it, she stepped inside ahead of him. The stove crackled as the coffee boiled. Clara sat by the hearth, hands wrapped around a tin cup, fingers stiff from the trail. Ethan moved quietly, setting a sack of flour on the shelf, then unlacing his boots by the door. The silence between them wasn't cold, but watchful, like wind through tall grass. "I'll take the cot," she said, not looking up. "You said the barn, but this place is too far out to sleep apart." He nodded, settling cross-legged near the wall, arms over his knees. Firelight flickered across his weathered face. "You build this?" she asked, tapping her cup. "My pa did. I helped with the fence, but he laid the beams." "He's still living?" "No, died in the blizzard 5 years back." She studied the shadow his boots cast on the floor. "Your ma?" "Buried beside him." Clara sipped her coffee. "Mine passed when I was young. Fever took her. Pa followed soon after. Some men can't stand being alone." Ethan stayed quiet, then said, "You managed from there?" "Blue's sister took work in town. I joined her when I was old enough to scrub floors and count coins. She's married now, got a boy and a girl. I didn't want to be the aunt stuck in the spare room forever." Her cup had cooled. She stood, poured the rest into the basin, and set it upside down on the shelf. Ethan spoke up. "There's a patch of ground north of the house, gone fallow. Good for a garden if the spring's wet enough." "That's hopeful thinking," she said. "It's good land," he replied. "Just needs someone to tend it." Clara unpinned her hair, shaking out the braid. "You think that's me?" "I think you'll decide for yourself." She watched him in the fire's glow. "Would you still want me here if Silas had come instead?" He didn't flinch. Didn't. "And I ain't sorry." She crossed the room slowly, knelt to fold the quilt on the cot. "I don't know what's next." "I ain't asking you to," he said. The fire dimmed to an orange glow. Clara pulled the quilt over the cot and lay back, arms crossed under her head. Ethan stretched out on the floor, using his coat as a pillow. They lay in silence until a loose shudder tapped in the wind. "Your boots," she said into the dark. "What about 'em?" "They ain't got silver toes." He let out a low breath, almost a laugh. "Never liked flesh." She smiled, unseen. "Me neither." "Me neither." Morning brought low clouds and the scent of damp earth. Rain had fallen, leaving puddles by the barn and darkening the porch. Clara stood at the threshold, watching magpies flit between fence posts. Ethan stepped from the barn, sleeves rolled, shirt damp from splitting kindling. He nodded toward the woodpile, then leaned the axe against the wall. "I'll patch the henhouse roof today," he said. "It's sagging." Clara turned slightly. "Hens to go with it?" "Not yet, but with a sound roof you could get some." She nodded but stayed by the door. Ethan's gaze lingered. "Sleep all right?" "I did," she said. "Woke once when the wind kicked up. Thought I heard a wagon, but it was just rain on the trough." He stepped beside her, not too close. "Expecting someone?" "No," she said, then paused. "Dreamed I was back at the depot, alone again. Felt like I never left." Ethan looked to the horizon. "Dreams'll do that. Drag you back to what you thought you'd left behind." "I didn't think I'd left anything behind," she said. "Just hoped it'd be different here." He let the silence settle. It still could be. A place built together. Frances stepped off the porch, her boots crunching on the frosted grass, and followed Wyatt to the shed. It tilted westward, its door dangling from a single hinge, revealing a chaos of rusted tools, knotted rope, and a broken seed grinder. "You keep everything you've ever touched," she said, rolling up her sleeves and kneeling by the pile. Wyatt crouched beside her. "Hard to toss things when town's half a day's ride and money's tight." She lifted a cracked lantern. "This one's done for. Got others?" He nodded, and she set it aside, reaching for a coil of wire. "This could mend a fence." They sorted in silence, separating what could be saved from what couldn't. By noon, a stack of usable items stood by the door, with scrap piled for burning or melting. Wyatt leaned against the doorframe, watching Frances tie a bundle of wire with a cloth strip. "You've got a knack for knowing what's worth keeping." She shrugged. "Learned from having just one drawer to hold everything." He brushed sawdust off an old workbench. "Ever thought of leaving Kansas City before Everett's letter?" Sitting back on her heels, she said, "Used to watch trains pass, wondering where they went. Didn't care where, just wanted to be on one." Wyatt nodded. "Rode one after the war. Slept upright between two snoring men. Still felt like freedom." Frances gave a faint smile, eyes on the floor. "Funny what we'll trade for that feeling." They stood, brushing grit from their hands. "I'll heat the kettle," she said. "We'll eat outside." Soon they sat on the porch with tin cups of boiled potatoes and salt pork, the sky clearing just enough for warmth. Wyatt leaned against a post. "Ever think about building something from scratch?" Frances traced her cup's rim. "A place that's mine, not borrowed. I'd grow beans, keep a butter churn, maybe teach kids to read if neighbors had any." He looked at her. "That's worth building." She met his gaze. "Would you help?" "I would." They sat in silence as the breeze stirred the grass and the sun dipped toward the ridge, neither looking away. Snow came early that October, frosting the porch rails and dulling the pasture to silvered gold. Frances, shawl pulled tight, carried a laundry basket outside, her breath clouding in the chill. The stove was warm, biscuits rising under a cloth. Wyatt was in the lower field, hammering fence posts before the ground froze. She heard the faint, steady rhythm as she pinned shirts to the line, her stitches reinforcing their cuffs. Evenings, she mended, while he cleaned tools or fixed the barn latch. They spoke little, but a quiet understanding passed between them, like a hummed tune. By mid-morning, Wyatt trudged up the path, gloves tucked in his belt, cheeks reddened. He paused, watching her at the line. "Posts holding?" she asked, grabbing another clothespin. Dry earth by the cottonwoods. Might soak it tonight. She nodded. Boiled the last black beans. They'll stay warm till noon. He reached past her to lift a damp sleeve. Still thinking of leaving? She turned, the clothesline flapping once. At first I did. Now I wake before dawn, tend a stove I didn't build, feed hens I didn't buy, sleep in a creaking bed. But it doesn't feel borrowed anymore. He nodded slowly. It's not. She pinned the last shirt, the line swaying. Wyatt broke the silence. Got a letter from Everett yesterday. He's back on his feet, staying with kin near Butte. Frances dusted her apron. Did you write back? Not yet. She met his eyes. Don't tell him more than he needs. I won't. The wind rose, and Wyatt steadied the basket. Frances caught his hand, his calloused warmth softening as their fingers locked. I didn't expect to feel at home again, she said. He stepped closer. I didn't expect to want more than I had, but I do now. Her throat tightened. Can I ask something? Anything. Would you build another room with space for a cradle by the stove? His face opened, unguarded. Already drew the plans. She laughed, a sound rare and bright, and pressed her forehead to his chest. Winter settled deep, snow blanketing the hills. They spent evenings stitching curtains, sealing wall cracks, watching the fire fade to embers and flare again. They planned spring planting, beans, squash, and spoke of ordering a milk cow, choosing a name for a child raised among fences and pine. By March, the new room stood, small but warm, its window catching morning light. Frances moved her mending basket to a bench by the cradle, stitching a quilt from old shirts and flour sacks. Wyatt carved cedar toys, standing each edge smooth. The baby came after the thaw, a girl with strong lungs and dark eyes. They named her Lily for the wildflowers by the creek. That first night, Frances held her close, Wyatt beside the bed, his hand on her knee. I never thought I'd be needed like this, she whispered. He leaned in, lips brushing her temple. You're not just needed, you're home. The lamp dimmed, the wind sighed through the eaves, and inside the house they'd built, slowly, honestly, together. The three of them breathed as one.